Welcome back to yet another Buffalo Bills pregame show. I'm Randy, he's Dan, and we are here to break down the AFC Championship game rematch. Get Bills versus the Chiefs here in Week 5, and I'm excited. How you feeling, Dan?
I'm pretty excited as well. I think every Bills fan that watches football should be excited.
It's been an exciting few weeks. What has been the bigger surprise for you? The Bills' absolute dominance in the past 3 weeks, or the Chiefs' not dominance? What seemed like the AFC team to beat has shown some chinks in its armor this season. So, what to you is more surprising?
I think I am very surprised with how dominant the Bills' defense has been. I think that's something that, last year it was the Bills' offense was just dominating every game, and this year it seems, while the offense has been playing good, I think the defense has just been lights out. I mean, granted, you've been playing backup quarterbacks and an old Ben Roethlisberger, but, 2 shutouts, that's impressive no matter who you're playing. I mean, this is the NFL, so to have that, I think that's very impressive. The Chiefs haven't been, insanely good like they had been in years past. But at the same time, I think they're 2-2. I think the Chiefs will be just fine in the end of it. So I think that doesn't play too much into this upcoming week's game.
You're not sleeping on the Chiefs, is what you're saying.
Definitely not.
But with a chance to get a 2-game lead and like the head-to-head victory for a tiebreaker, not that there's any must-win games, but this feels like if we can. It will be a huge boost to the team, the fan, and everyone if the Bills can pull out a victory this week. So, at the very least, with the national spotlight on, it's going to be a super, super exciting game to watch. On the offensive side of the ball, despite performing very well the past 3 games at the very least, the Bills not content to stay still. They've done some reshuffling to the line, a little bit out of necessity with Feliciano being out on concussion protocol. Boettger replaces Feliciano left guard. Daryl Williams slides over from tackle to left guard, coming in to play the right guard. Coming in to play the right guard position or right tackle position is Spencer Brown, leaving Cody Ford, a pick by this coaching staff and general manager. They benched him, and that's an interesting move that someone they'd spent a second-round capital on to recognize that maybe we have other players that play that position well. The point I'm trying to make is that it's a sign of a coaching staff that is willing to reevaluate this players, even if it is like someone that they themselves have a vested interest in. Dion, Dawkins, and Mitch Morse staying where they are, but a new players in 60% of the spots on the offensive line. Do you also see this as a positive move for the Bills, or are we messing with a good thing that doesn't need to get messed with?
I think it's a good sign. I think, the way that Spencer Brown played this past Sunday against the Texans, that's a very, hopeful sign for Bills fans because I think he played really well. And, he's only a rookie. On the same notes, I think, Cody Ford has been a little disappointing these first 4 games and even at times last year. So I think if, McDermott sees something where he thinks he can make an upgrade, and I certainly think the Bills played pretty well on offense against the Texans. I think it's a positive. I think it wasn't like the Bills were the best offensive line in the NFL, and they're ruining all that chemistry. I think what they're doing is going to end up being beneficial.
And if you take the name the Chiefs out of it, I suppose it's not the worst game to switch around the offensive line when you're going against the 31st ranked defense in the league. So maybe seeing a weaker defensive opponent, now's the time to get some chemistry built. Flipping over to the defense, the formula for beating the Chiefs, at least for Tampa Bay in the Super Bowl, was to pressure Patrick Mahomes. Our defensive line has provided a lot more pressure coming into the season. Of course, having had some additions between the draft and other ways. Do you think our pass rush is up to the task of getting pressure on Patrick Mahomes?
Well, I definitely think so. Throughout the first few games of the season, I think that's exactly what the Bills have shown. You spent all that draft capital, you went and got some players in free agency for this exact reason, to be able to have a pass rush. I mean, clearly the Bills, were watching the Super Bowl. The Bills were watching the Super Bowl between the Chiefs and Buccaneers and saw what worked against Patrick Mahomes. And I think that's why they spent their first 2 picks on defensive linemen. and went out and got guys in free agency for this exact, I won't say for this exact game, but for this exact scenario. So I think it's going to pay off. I think you got a lot of guys that you're able to rotate in there. There was, the first couple of games this season, you had games where Harrison Phillips was inactive and Boogie Basham was inactive. But in this last game against the Texans, both those guys were playing and both those guys had an impact. So I think no matter who you throw in there, if you're rotating guys in, I think it's what's going to take them over the top against the Chiefs.
I hope so too, man. Mahomes has proven, very, very good against blitzes, and we have been very blitz heavy up to this point. So I'm hoping that we're able to get some more natural pressure through the defensive linemen. Speaking of Mahomes, topic of discussion this week. I know it is almost a useless philosophical conversation because there's no way Patrick Mahomes could have ever played for the Bills. There's no way he could have ever fallen that far in the draft. But given their careers right now, if you had the choice to trade even Allen for Mahomes, would you? I guess if you could take their careers from this point going forward, whose career do you think is going to end up better?
That's a really hard question. Obviously so far Mahomes has outperformed Josh Allen. But I almost want to say that Josh Allen hasn't... His best football is still ahead of him. Or at least I'm hoping so. Mahomes has been around for a few years, or he's been playing at an elite level for a few years now, to the point where, how much better can he get? I guess you could say that same thing about Josh Allen after his season last year. But, I think the Bills are still new to the spotlight. They're new to having free agent players want to come to Buffalo. And I think that's been the case for the last few years in Kansas City. You see Josh Gordon signing with the Chiefs. It seems like every great player wants to go play for Kansas City. And you're starting to see that in Buffalo.
Josh Gordon, 2013 called wants his great wide receiver back. I don't know if he still makes the list, but I guess that's a different conversation.
you had guys not even necessarily towards the end of their career, but I feel like in the past you've seen LeSean McCoy. You saw what was the guy last year? Leveon Bell. You had some of these guys that were really great players. Obviously, it didn't work out for Leveon Bell.
You get enticed by the Jets. How can you say no to that offer? But again, I digress.
I think Josh Allen still has his best football ahead of him. So
I'm gonna have to agree with you, and you touched on it a little bit. But admittedly, I watch more Bills games than I do Chiefs games, being a Bills fan living in Buffalo. But I feel like I've seen everything that Patrick Mahomes can do, and coming off an off season, it's oh man, what tricks did Josh pick up this year? I feel like he is striving towards learning more, and maybe that's just my bias for Buffalo. But I'm with you. I'm very interested to see what is in store for this young man. So I think I'm with you. If I had to choose between one of them today, I would choose Josh Allen. And man, how good does that feel? You wouldn't have said that about any of this other quarterbacks since maybe Bledsoe. I don't know. I would take Mahomes over Bledsoe.
Yeah, probably.
All right, time for our favorite time. Put up or shut up. I think I went first last week, so I'm going to let you go first. Who's winning this game?
I'm going to say the Bills are going to win this one. It's going to happen eventually, right? The Bills seem to not be able to beat the Chiefs these last few years. It used to be, before Mahomes, where the Bills beat the Chiefs every year. But I'm going to go Bills 24-21.
Ooh, it's a low-scoring game for these two prolific offenses. Very good. You might be a little young to remember, but even back in the day when the Bills were at their best in the 90s, Arrowhead Stadium was a tough place to play. Very loud down there with the K-gun. Jim Kelly would struggle communicating with the offense. And so it's just super exciting that the way history repeats itself and that the Chiefs have cycled through to be good once again at the same time as the Bills, and that we're going into a big game at Arrowhead Stadium in prime time. It's really it's an exciting time to be a Bills fan, and so I will have them winning as well, because you can't go 15-1-1 without winning all the rest. They're not going to tie this game. So I have the Bills winning 33-30 and a bit more of a barn burner. And we will be back as a pregame show in several weeks. Week 13 for the Monday Night Football game is we'll be back unless we decide otherwise. So, as always, we reserve the right to come talk to you whenever we want. But until Monday Night Football Week 13, good night! Not my best throw. I would choose Allen over me.